Now listen. You ever notice how quiet a man gets when his feelings start getting real? I'm talking about that silence that confuses you. That silence that makes you question everything. You start thinking he don't care. You start telling yourself maybe it wasn't real. But let me tell you something. Silence doesn't mean absence of feelings. Sometimes silence means pressure. Sometimes silence means he fighting something inside himself he don't even understand yet. Silence can be one of the most misunderstood signals when it comes to a man's feelings. You see the quiet, the distance, the lack of messages, and your mind immediately starts creating stories. You tell yourself he lost interest. You assume if he cared, he would speak. But what many people don't realize is that silence does not mean the absence of feelings. In many cases, silence is where feelings become louder. It is where a man starts facing emotions he didn't expect to have and doesn't fully understand how to express. A man often goes quiet when something becomes real. When it's casual, he's relaxed. When it's light, he speaks freely. But when emotions gain weight, he starts thinking more than talking. He begins analyzing every interaction, every moment, every word you said. That quiet you see is not emptiness, it is processing. It is internal conversation. It is him asking himself questions he never thought he would have to answer. Men are not always taught how to express emotions in real time. They are taught to handle things alone, to figure things out internally before showing vulnerability. So when feelings appear, especially strong ones, silence becomes the space where he tries to understand what those feelings mean. He is not disappearing emotionally. He is slowing down emotionally, and that difference matters. You may think if he cared, he would speak immediately, but caring deeply can actually create hesitation. When someone matters, the stakes feel higher. Suddenly, every message feels important. Every word feels risky. He starts wondering if he will say the wrong thing, if he will move too fast, or if he will reveal too much. Silence becomes protection, not from you, but from the fear of doing it wrong. There are moments when a man goes quiet because he is realizing your value. When you are consistently present, he may not fully recognize your impact, but when space appears, awareness grows. He notices your absence in small routines. He notices conversations he can't replace. He notices the emotional comfort he didn't appreciate before. That awareness often happens in silence, not in conversation. Silence is also where pride and emotion meet. A man may feel something strongly while simultaneously resisting the need to show it. This creates internal tension. He wants to reach out, but he questions himself. He thinks about texting, then stops. He replays scenarios in his mind, trying to predict outcomes before acting. That pause is not indifference. It is emotional conflict. Another truth is that silence allows feelings to deepen. When someone is constantly speaking, they sometimes avoid reflection. But when things slow down, reflection begins. He starts recognizing patterns. He starts remembering details. He starts connecting emotional dots that were invisible before. Silence becomes the environment where feelings move from surface level to something real. It is important to understand that silence is not always comfortable for him either. He feels the distance too. He notices the change too. But growth rarely happens in noise. Growth happens in quiet moments where a person cannot distract themselves from what they feel. That is where realization forms. So when you see silence, it does not automatically mean the story is ending. Sometimes silence is the part of the story where truth is forming. It is the space between confusion and clarity. It is where emotions stop being casual and start becoming meaningful. And often, what looks like distance on the outside is actually emotional movement on the inside. Men often experience emotions in a way that is slower on the surface, but deeper underneath. This difference creates a lot of confusion because what you see does not always reflect what is happening internally. A woman may recognize feelings quickly and express them through conversation, questions, and connection. A man, however, may take more time to understand what he feels, not because the feelings are weak, but because they are unfamiliar territory. When emotions begin to grow, a man does not always label them immediately. He notices comfort before he notices attachment. He notices your presence before he admits your importance. He notices he enjoys talking to you before he accepts that he misses you. This gradual awareness makes his emotional process appear slow, but in reality, it is layered. Each realization builds on the previous one, creating depth rather than instant expression. A man often evaluates feelings through experience instead of discussion. He watches how he feels after conversations. He notices whether your absence affects his mood. He pays attention to whether he wants to share good news with you first. These small internal observations are how he measures emotional significance. He may not announce it, but he is constantly collecting emotional evidence. Because of this, when feelings become clear, they tend to be strong. By the time a man admits to himself that he cares, he has already gone through multiple stages of reflection. He has questioned whether it is real. He has compared it to past experiences. He has tried to ignore it. And when it remains, it carries weight. This is why men sometimes appear calm while feeling something very serious underneath. Another important part of this process is emotional safety. A man moves deeper when he feels safe, not pressured. If he feels rushed to define emotions he is still understanding, he may slow down even more. Not because he wants distance, but because he wants certainty. Certainty is important to him. He does not want to speak from temporary emotion. He wants to speak from clarity. This internal pacing often makes it seem like he is behind emotionally, but he is not behind. He is building foundation. Quick emotions can be loud, but slow emotions tend to last longer. When a man reaches emotional clarity, his actions usually become more consistent because he is no longer guessing what he feels. He has already done that work internally. Men also tend to express depth through behavior rather than dramatic words. He may remember details you forgot mentioning. He may show up in practical ways. He may create time even when busy. These actions are not random. They are signs that his emotional investment has moved beyond surface interest into something meaningful. The deeper a man feels, the more intentional he becomes. Casual energy turns into attention. Attention turns into effort. Effort turns into consistency. But this progression happens quietly. It happens in observation, reflection, and time. From the outside, it can look like slow movement. From the inside, it is emotional construction. Understanding this changes how you interpret his pace. Slowness does not automatically mean uncertainty. Sometimes it means seriousness. When something matters, he does not rush to label it. He studies it. He tests it against reality. He allows time to confirm what he feels. And once that confirmation happens, the depth becomes visible, not as sudden emotion, but as steady presence that was forming long before it was spoken. Distance has a way of revealing emotions that closeness sometimes hides. When someone is always present, it can feel natural, expected, even routine. A man may enjoy your presence without fully recognizing how important it has become. But when space appears, awareness begins. Distance interrupts comfort, and that interruption forces reflection. It creates a contrast between how things felt with you and how they feel without you. In that space, small realizations begin to surface. He notices conversations missing from his day. He notices moments where he instinctively wants to share something with you. He notices that certain jokes, certain routines, certain emotional comfort cannot be replaced easily. These realizations rarely happen while everything is constant. They happen when something changes. Distance creates that change. Distance slows everything down externally, but speeds things up internally. Without constant interaction, the mind fills the silence with memory. He replays moments that once felt ordinary. He remembers details he did not react to at the time. Reflection gives those moments new meaning. What felt casual before starts to feel significant. Distance allows emotions to be examined instead of experienced only in real time. A man often understands value through absence because absence removes distraction. When you are present, he may focus on daily life, responsibilities, or the moment itself. When you are not, the emotional impact becomes clearer. He begins to measure how often you cross his mind without effort. He begins to notice emotional habits that formed around you. Awareness grows naturally, not forcefully. Distance also removes emotional convenience. If he relied on your presence for comfort, he now feels that gap. If he relied on your energy to lift his mood, he notices the difference. This is not punishment, it is clarity. Emotional clarity often arrives when something familiar is no longer available in the same way. That clarity helps him understand whether what he felt was surface, level, or meaningful. Another important aspect of distance is that it challenges avoidance. When feelings are confusing, a person can distract themselves through constant interaction without defining anything. Distance removes that option. Without distraction, thoughts become louder. Questions appear that were previously ignored. He starts asking himself why you matter, why your absence feels different, and why certain memories stay present. Distance can also reduce pressure, which allows honesty to form. Sometimes a man does not understand his feelings while he is actively inside the connection. Stepping back gives perspective. Perspective allows him to see patterns instead of moments. He begins to recognize emotional consistency rather than temporary feelings. That recognition is what transforms uncertainty into clarity. It is common to assume distance means fading, but distance often tests emotional truth. If feelings are shallow, distance weakens them. If feelings are real, distance highlights them. The mind naturally returns to what feels meaningful. He may try to focus elsewhere, but certain thoughts repeat. Repetition is a sign of emotional importance becoming clear. Distance also gives him space to imagine a future instead of only experiencing the present. When you are not constantly there, he starts thinking about what it would look like if you were. That shift from present moments to future consideration is where deeper feelings develop. It moves the connection from enjoyment to intention. What distance really does is remove noise so emotional signals can be heard clearly. It separates habit from attachment. It reveals whether someone was simply part of routine or part of emotional life. And in that quiet space, clarity forms, not suddenly, but steadily, as realization replaces assumption. Fear of rejection is one of the strongest reasons a man delays action, even when his feelings are real. From the outside, hesitation can look like uncertainty or lack of interest, but internally it often comes from risk. When emotions become meaningful, the possibility of losing the connection feels heavier. Speaking up is no longer just communication, it becomes exposure. And exposure creates vulnerability. A man may spend a long time appearing calm while internally weighing that risk. He thinks about what could go right, but his mind naturally focuses on what could go wrong. What if you don't feel the same? What if timing has changed? What if reaching out makes him look foolish? These questions slow movement, not because the feelings are weak, but because the feelings matter enough to protect. Rejection affects pride, but more importantly, it affects emotional safety. When something is casual, rejection is easier to accept because there is little emotional investment. When feelings are deeper, rejection feels personal. It feels like confirmation that the emotional risk was misplaced. That possibility alone can keep a man silent longer than expected. Another reason fear delays action is the pressure to appear confident. Many men believe they should approach situations with certainty, even when they are unsure internally. This creates conflict. He may feel strongly but believe he should not show that until he knows the outcome is safe. Instead of expressing emotion while uncertain, he waits for signs, reassurance, or the right moment that reduces perceived risk. During this waiting period, he often watches more than he speaks. He pays attention to your behavior, your tone, your openness. He looks for signals that his feelings will be received rather than rejected. This observation is not always obvious, but it is constant. He is trying to understand whether vulnerability will lead to connection or disappointment. Fear also creates perfectionism in communication. He may feel the need to say the right thing in the right way at the right time. That search for the perfect moment can cause delay because perfection rarely exists. He drafts messages mentally. He imagines conversations before they happen. He considers outcomes repeatedly. This internal rehearsal can make action feel heavier than silence. Past experiences often intensify this fear. If he has expressed feelings before and felt misunderstood or rejected, he carries that memory into new situations. Even if you are different, the emotional memory remains. It makes him cautious. Caution slows expression, but does not erase feeling. In many cases, it means he cares enough to avoid repeating emotional pain. Fear of rejection can also coexist with hope. He may want the connection to grow while simultaneously worrying that expressing feelings could change the dynamic. Sometimes he values the connection so much that he fears losing it entirely. Staying silent feels safer than risking a shift he cannot control. This is why hesitation is often rooted in preservation, not indifference. Over time, however, the pressure of unspoken feelings increases. Holding emotions inside requires energy. The longer he carries them, the more difficult silence becomes. Fear may delay action, but it rarely removes the desire to express what feels real. Eventually, the discomfort of silence competes with the fear of rejection. That internal turning point is where courage begins forming. Not sudden courage, but gradual acceptance that emotional risk is necessary for emotional clarity. He starts realizing that unanswered questions create more tension than possible rejection. That realization shifts his focus from protecting pride to seeking truth. And when that shift happens, hesitation slowly begins to lose its control. Real feelings have a persistence that surface-level emotions do not. They do not disappear simply because communication slows down or circumstances become complicated. Instead, real feelings remain present in quiet ways, showing up in thoughts, reactions, memories, and small emotional patterns that are difficult to ignore. A man may try to distract himself, stay busy, or convince himself that what he felt was temporary, but genuine emotion tends to return without effort. One of the strongest signs that feelings are real is repetition. When someone consistently crosses his mind without intention, it signals emotional significance. He may be focused on daily life, yet something reminds him of you, a joke, a place, a song, a random moment that connects back to shared experience. These mental returns are not planned. They happen because the emotional connection created meaning, and meaning is difficult for the mind to discard. Real feelings also influence decision-making in subtle ways. He may compare new conversations to the connection he had with you. He may notice that interactions feel different, lighter, or less engaging. This comparison is rarely deliberate, But it happens naturally when someone has created a strong emotional reference point. Once that reference exists, it becomes part of how he evaluates other connections. Another aspect of real emotion is emotional memory. Surface-level connections fade quickly because they are tied to momentary enjoyment. Genuine feelings, however, attach to emotional impact. He remembers how he felt around you, not just what happened. Emotional memory is powerful because it is linked to identity, comfort, and personal experience. It stays accessible even when distance exists. A man may resist these feelings at first. Resistance can look like silence, distraction, or convincing himself that timing was wrong. But resistance requires energy, and real emotion tends to outlast that effort. The more he tries to ignore it, the more noticeable it becomes. What he avoids starts appearing in unexpected moments, when he is relaxed, when something meaningful happens, or when he experiences something he wishes he could share with you. Real feelings also create unfinished emotional space. When something meaningful is left unexpressed, it does not feel complete. This sense of incompletion keeps the connection present in his mind. He may replay conversations, imagine different outcomes, or think about what he wishes he had said. These reflections are not about the past alone. They are about emotional closure that has not yet happened. Time does not automatically weaken genuine emotion. In many cases, time clarifies it. Without constant interaction, he sees what remains. If thoughts fade, the connection was likely situational. If thoughts stay consistent, it indicates emotional depth. Real feelings become clearer because they survive distance, distraction, and changing circumstances. Another sign of genuine emotion is that it influences behavior even when unspoken. He may check your updates, wonder how you are, or feel a reaction when he hears your name. These responses happen automatically. They reflect emotional investment that exists beneath conscious decision. Even if he does not act immediately, the emotional response reveals that the connection still holds importance. Real feelings also challenge logic. A man may logically understand reasons to move on while emotionally feeling pulled back. This conflict is common when emotion carries meaning beyond circumstance. Logic focuses on practicality, but emotion focuses on impact. When impact is strong, it continues to surface regardless of logical explanation. Over time, genuine emotion creates pressure toward expression. Humans naturally seek resolution for meaningful experiences. The longer something important remains unspoken, the stronger the urge to address it becomes. He may not rush, but the desire for clarity grows. What once felt easier to ignore becomes harder to carry silently. This persistence is what separates real feelings from temporary interest. Temporary interest fades when attention shifts. Real feelings remain present even when attention is elsewhere. They return without invitation, influence perception, and shape emotional awareness. They do not force immediate action, but they continue moving internally, gradually guiding him toward acknowledgement of what he truly feels. When a man is truly ready, his actions begin to reflect a clarity that was not visible before. Readiness is not something he announces immediately. It is something that shows in behavior. The confusion that once existed starts fading because he is no longer questioning what he feels. He has already gone through the internal process, the thinking, the hesitation, the fear, the reflection, and reached a point where silence feels heavier than expression. Readiness changes energy first. A man who once seemed uncertain begins to move with intention. Conversations feel more direct. His presence feels more consistent. He is no longer interacting casually while privately questioning everything. Instead, his behavior starts aligning with what he feels internally. This alignment creates a noticeable shift because mixed signals begin to disappear. One of the clearest signs of readiness is initiative. When a man understands his feelings, he stops waiting for perfect timing. He reaches out because the need for connection outweighs the fear of disruption. Initiative does not mean grand gestures. It means movement without being pushed. He starts conversations, follows through, and creates opportunities to reconnect. Action replaces observation. Consistency also becomes stronger when readiness appears. Before clarity, effort may come and go because he is unsure how much emotional space he should occupy. After clarity, that uncertainty decreases. He no longer measures every interaction as carefully because he knows his intention. This allows his effort to become steady rather than occasional. Consistency is often the quiet evidence of emotional certainty. Another important shift is honesty. When a man is not ready, he may speak around his feelings, hint instead of express, or keep conversations light to avoid vulnerability. Readiness changes that pattern. He becomes more comfortable acknowledging what the connection means to him. This does not always appear as dramatic confession. Sometimes it shows as simple, clear statements that carry emotional weight because they are intentional. Readiness also reduces emotional avoidance. Previously, he may have distracted himself, delayed responses, or avoided conversations that felt too serious. Once he accepts his feelings, avoidance becomes less necessary. Difficult conversations feel less threatening because they serve clarity rather than uncertainty. He is more willing to engage even when the outcome is unknown. Effort becomes more visible in practical ways as well. He makes time instead of waiting for time to appear. He remembers details without trying. He checks in because it feels natural, not strategic. These behaviors are not performances, they are expressions of priority. When someone matters, effort stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like intention. Another shift is emotional presence. A man who is ready listens differently. He pays attention not only to what you say, but to how you feel. His responses show engagement rather than surface interaction. This presence reflects that he is no longer protecting himself from emotion, but participating in it. Emotional presence is often one of the strongest indicators that readiness has formed. Readiness also brings acceptance of vulnerability. He understands that expressing feelings carries risk, but he becomes willing to accept that risk. The fear does not disappear completely. It simply stops controlling his behavior. He recognizes that clarity is more valuable than protection. This recognition allows him to speak and act in ways that were previously delayed. Another important change is forward thinking. When a man is unsure, his focus stays in the present moment to avoid defining anything. When he is ready, he naturally begins considering the future. Conversations include plans, possibilities, and continuity. This does not happen because he forces it. It happens because emotional clarity creates space for intention beyond the moment. What makes readiness powerful is that it simplifies behavior. He stops overthinking every message. He stops analyzing whether he should show interest. He stops holding back effort out of fear of imbalance. Instead, his actions become straightforward reflections of what he feels. That simplicity is noticeable because it replaces confusion with direction. Readiness does not create perfection, but it creates movement. A man who is ready may still feel nervous, may still choose words carefully, and may still move gradually. The difference is that he moves. His behavior shows willingness instead of hesitation. And that willingness is the visible result of everything he processed internally, finally turning into action.